Media manipulation and fakes during elections happen almost everywhere. Ukraine shells the Donbas on election day, while 10 million people were apparently deprived of their right to vote. The British ambassador to Ukraine is accused of breaking the law while elections were held at gunpoint. This is StopFake, the place where we set the record straight on fakes about Ukraine. I'm Marko Suprun, so let the debunking begin. The avalanche of fakes Russian media unleashed before Ukraine's March 31 presidential election turned into a torrent of lies on election day when RT and other Russian media outlets claimed Ukraine's military shelled the self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic, the DPR, in an attempt to provoke a reaction so as to disrupt voting in regions near the front lines of Russia's war against Ukraine. They claimed the area around Horlivka, which is the fourth largest city in the Donetsk region, was shelled by large-caliber mortars banned by the Minsk Agreement, and the source for these claims is an unnamed chief of police of the DPR. Now remember, the OSCE Ukraine Special Monitoring Mission prepares daily reports documenting military activities between the Ukrainian army and the Russian proxy forces. The March 31 report does not confirm these claims, quite the contrary. The monitors note that the situation on the front line and at entry-exit checkpoints in government-controlled areas of Donetsk and Luhansk was calm during the presidential election. In fact, the OSCE report mentions no shelling of any kind around the suburbs of Horlivka. In a Facebook post, Ukraine's Joint Forces Operation Press Office refuted these Russian claims. On March 31, Russian proxy forces fired on Ukrainian forces deployed around the town of Lebedinske with heavy mortar machine guns. Lebedinske is located 127 kilometers south of Donetsk. Ukrainian military responded to the attack and reported no casualties. Kremlin propagandist website Politnavigator claimed Ukrainians are voting in the presidential elections under the barrel of a gun and the watchful eyes of special forces. The pro-Kremlin NTV television channel announced that Ukrainian cities were filled with armored vehicles, special forces, and drones in an effort to pressure voters. NTV apparently has a special ability to read minds. They said Ukrainians see the move as an attempt to intimidate disloyal citizens and that the regime of President Petro Poroshenko is ready to use force if needed. Now, on the eve of presidential elections, Ukraine's police, the State Border Service, and other law enforcement agencies were put on alert, and this is common practice in other countries. The alert was raised to ensure the safety of voters during the election and safeguard the voting process from possible terrorist attacks and Russian election interference. Preventative measures prevent offensives, says Ukrainian Deputy Interior Minister Serhiy Yaroviy. More than 100,000 police officers ensured the safety of the electoral process, with 2 police officers on duty outside every polling station in the country. Ukraine's border service was also on high alert on election day, with additional border guards at checkpoints to facilitate the movement of residents from the occupied territories in eastern Ukraine and Crimea to Ukrainian-controlled territory. Russian media were busy this week claiming that British ambassador to Ukraine, Judith Guff, violated Ukraine's election law by taking a picture with a presidential ballot. But there was no violation. A violation would have occurred if the ballot was filled out or if the results of someone's vote were somehow made public. Russian Defense Ministry organ Zvezda declared British ambassador breaks Ukrainian election law by being photographed with an election ballot, and the same fake was echoed by Izvestia, while the irate conservative Orthodox and monarchist Tsargrad blared Anglo-Saxon above the law. Again, showing an empty blank ballot is not an election law violation. Ambassador Guff tweeted a photograph of herself holding up an empty election ballot to show how long it was. With 39 candidates, the ballot paper is really this long, she wrote. Finally, according to Ukraine's criminal code, the secrecy of the ballot is violated only when a marked ballot is publicly displayed before being dropped into the ballot box. The pro-Kremlin nationalist site Tsargrad announced that 10 million Ukrainians living in the Russian Federation and Donbas residents were not allowed to take part in the March 31 Ukrainian presidential elections. Tsargrad claimed, quote, "For the first time, Russian election observers were not allowed to observe this poll. Polling stations in Russia and Donbas were not opened. This made it impossible for up to 10 million voters to cast their ballots." The total number of Ukrainian citizens living in Russia and in the occupied Donbas territories is actually closer to 6 million rather than 10, and those who chose to vote had the possibility to do so. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Pavlo Klimkin previously stated that as of 2018, some 3 million Ukrainians live on the territory of the Russian Federation. Thousands of these these Ukrainian nationals are already included in Ukraine's state registry of voters, and to claim that Ukraine has made it impossible for these Ukrainians to vote is a highly manipulative distortion of reality, Klimkin said. The Ukrainian Central Election Commission closed all polling stations located in Ukraine's embassy and consulates in Russia and moved them to Georgia, Kazakhstan, and Finland. Minister Klimkin explained that polling stations needed to be transferred from Russia to other countries because Russia is an aggressor country against Ukraine, and holding a vote in Ukraine's consulates and embassies in Russia is simply not safe. And Ukrainians living in the eastern Donbas occupied territories could also vote in the presidential election if they chose to do so. Voters simply had to register to vote in polling stations in Ukrainian-controlled territory. That's it for this week. You can find much more dissected disinformation on the StopFake website. Be vigilant, look out for fakes, and if you spot any disinformation about Ukraine, forward it to us for a truth autopsy. I'm Marko Suprun, and this is StopFake. Thanks for watching.